Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Don't mind the background. I am currently on holidays, but today we are talking about season 2, episode 5 of Tell Me Lies. And so far I thought this was the best episode of potentially the whole show. I was absolutely hooked this episode. I felt like the 50 minutes went by in what felt like 15 minutes. The pacing was excellent. I thought all the scenes propelled these characters forward in really interesting ways. We're getting a lot of backstory and the world is starting to feel a lot more expansive. In season 1, the show very much felt like it was just the story of Steven and Lucy with some minor characters. But at this point, it feels like every single character is pulling their weight and this show is really interested in this friendship group as a whole. I was basically hooked in every single second of this episode. Now, important to note, I still will be doing a video covering the first 4 episodes of this season. That'll be coming soon, but because this episode just dropped, I'm dying to talk about it. Now, first off, the episode opens with Lucy finding out that her GPA has dropped to about a 3, and this is because she dropped the unit that Steven was a TA for, and that impacted her score. And the reason I find this scene interesting is because the teacher, Marianne, offers to help her out of this predicament, and I think that's going to make Lucy feel a lot more guilty about keeping Brie's secret about the fact that Brie is sleeping with Marianne's husband, and I think it means it's probably going to compel Lucy to speak up to Marianne. I think that's the most interesting sort of like nugget here that you're meant to take away from this interaction. Next, we have Steven and Diana finding out their LSAT scores, and I find this really interesting because for a split second, for a slither of a moment, we see Steven being an almost good partner to Diana. He seems genuinely excited to be getting their LSAT scores, and you quickly realize that this is yet again Steven being shitty. But really, you just find out that Steven is only actually excited because he's expecting Diana to come with him, and when he finds out Diana didn't do that well in the LSAT, he seems genuinely upset with her for doing badly, but not because he's disappointed for her, rather disappointed with her is the vibe he gives off. He seems genuinely annoyed that she didn't do well because it gets in the way of his plans rather than their plans, or more importantly, her plans. Next, I will be covering this relationship more in my season discussion about episodes 1 to 4, but I am really struggling with this relationship between Oliver and Brie, not because I think it's a bad plotline, it is just a painful to watch plotline. This is like a car crash in slow motion, and watching Oliver talk about his wife Marianne to Brie made me want to barf. This was just painful, just a totally uncomfortable watch, like my lord. This scene peaks with cringe and squirm factor when Brie accidentally lets slip to Oliver that she told Lucy about their getaway weekend. This is rough. This is a rough moment that really makes her feel a lot younger than Oliver, and Oliver is clearly pissed. He tries to pretend he isn't, but this is just rough. Then we have this scene between Oliver, Brie, and the barmaid. Initially, I thought the barmaid was just being a bit icy towards the two of them because she could tell that Oliver was having an affair, but the way the interaction went, especially given the ID comment, made it seem like that what the show was suggesting was that the barmaid thought that Brie was Oliver's daughter, or at least young enough to be his daughter, and then Oliver kisses Brie in front of the barmaid as basically a fuck you. This is a really awkward moment. It makes it feel like Brie is just this toy for Oliver to use at times, and you can tell Brie is clearly a bit disturbed by this interaction. It's really sleazy. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but Oliver starts to feel really sinister this episode. There are a few throwaway comments and a few things he does with his demeanor and how cold and icy and calculated he starts to feel, that it almost feels like Brie might be getting into something that is genuinely dangerous and toxic rather than just problematic and emotionally tumultuous in regards to it being an affair. It genuinely is starting to feel like there is something darker to Oliver here, and I'm kind of waiting for the shoe to drop, particularly pertaining to his first wife. Obviously, he is sad that his first wife passed away, but the way he kind of talks about it and skirts around it and shuts the conversation completely feels like maybe something darker went down with his first wife.
He didn't just like kiss Brie in front of the barmaid.
He like made eye contact,
active
right?
eye contact like the entire time.
Yeah.
Like pre, during, and post.
That was so fucking rough. All right, so next, Lydia meets Steven. This is an insane moment, and I just have to comment how good I think the writing is this season. At the end of season 1, when Lydia shows up as Steven's like fiance, initially there's this moment where you're like, wait, who? Lydia? Who? What? And it almost felt like sloppy writing, given it didn't have this massive impact because we didn't have too much time with Lydia. But now this season is giving us so much time with Lydia. We are seeing this relationship form in front of our eyes. It's super captivating remain super interesting. One of my favorite things about this season is there are a bunch of pairings that you know aren't going to work, like Wrigley and Pippa. And there are a bunch of new pairings that you know are eventually going to happen but haven't happened yet, such as Pippa and Diana. And you're kind of waiting for these seeds to be planted. It makes the show really compelling and interesting. And one of these is Lydia and Steven, because when Lydia first meets Steven, she tears him a new arsehole, specifically the line where she says that she expected Steven to be better looking given what Lucy put up with from him. Just an absolutely insane comment to watch come out of someone's mouth. I loved it. But again, this is super captivating because it's like they're starting at this point, but somehow Steven is going to be able to isolate her from Lucy and then propose to her successfully. So I'm really interested to see how that goes down. All right, so next we have the moment with Steven's sister and Lucy. And look, I know Steven does not deserve the good grace of anyone, but I think Lucy was way out of pocket here. And the issue is, I get why Lucy is bothered. I get why she's passionate. And I get why she wants to warn Steven's sister about Steven's true nature. But I just felt like the way she kind of made it almost feel like Steven's sister was inherently in the wrong for even wanting to see the best in her brother was just insane. And I feel like Diana calling Lucy out in this moment was entirely justified and warranted. Next, the teacher Oliver manages to outdo himself, out-cringe himself in this interaction about Brie and whether she is shaved or not. It is an absolutely unhinged, insane, uncomfortable moment. So basically the setup here, right, is that Brie outlines to Oliver like, oh my God, like I'm actually really embarrassed. You walk around naked so comfortably and I can't do that at the moment because I didn't shave. I didn't get myself ready for this week away. And he proceeds to go like, oh, don't even worry about all that grooming. And initially it feels like a really good sort of forward thinking progressive moment from Oliver. You think he's just going to be really chill about body hair and like natural features, but then he proceeds to add, plus if you shave too much it starts to feel a bit prepubescent. This is one of the most uncomfortable moments I've seen in modern television in like a while. And then he proceeds to double down on it where she goes, oh, are there any other things I should know that you do or don't like? And he goes, nah, it was really just the body hair, you know, just a thought. And it's like, it's clearly not fucking just a thought, because the way he said that was entirely with his chest, as if when she shaved in the past, that is what has gone through his head. It's absolutely insane. It's so bad.
Because then he like proceeds to, and then he's like, oh, you won't care about body hair at my age.
Oh my God, that was so bad.
Yes, and then
But then she said something weird. So just when you thought Oliver's like pre-game dirty talk couldn't get any worse than the pre-pubescent comment, they then have this discussion where he basically says like, oh, once you're my age, you'll get how I feel. Brie then proceeds to come out with an incredibly morbid comment where she says, I won't know you by the time that I'm your age, basically implying that he'll be dead by then. He then like stims out because it's such a confronting, morbid thought. And his response to this is to just take off his wedding ring and put it on her finger. The whole pillow talk conversation was just entirely self-sabotage for both of them. It was so hard to watch. The plot gets really juicy now though, because Lydia finds out that her brother is dealing with a bunch of SA accusations, which obviously Pippa has also been assaulted by Lydia's brother and is in the room when Lydia is finding this out. And Lucy actually does the right thing here and starts sticking up for the alleged victims because of what Pippa has been through and pushes back against Lydia. And you see a rift between Lydia and Lucy start to form. Despite Lucy being really disappointing in this season so far morally, this was a really good moment from her, and I'm glad she put her foot down. It was also really tragic to watch Pippa have to leave the room here. Next, we have a really, really sweet scene between Pippa and Wrigley. They have been the heart of this season so far. Again, in my episodes 1 to 4 video that will be coming out in the next couple of days, I really touch on this, but I think their dynamic this season is really warm. It's one of the few genuine, earnest things in this season. So far, it feels like they are the heart of this show, and their current status is just a tragic side effect of the toxicity of Steven and Lucy. It feels like they've been catching stray bullets from the relationship of Steven and Lucy. But I think this scene where Wrigley is there for Pippa and they have this really honest conversation about where they went wrong, where they went right, it's really, really sweet. And I absolutely love when Wrigley gets back to Steven and reveals to Steven that he spent the night with Pippa, but they didn't sleep together. And Steven starts having an issue with this, and Wrigley proceeds to say, why do you care if I don't? The delivery here is hilarious. It was a really great Wrigley moment. So next we have more peak evil Steven. This is Steven operating at full capacity. So basically Steven's sister gets back and tells Steven about everything Lucy said to her. So then Steven flies off the handle and is calling and calling and calling Lucy, and she doesn't pick up, and he proceeds to leave just an insane voicemail. And I really like how the show executed this, because you don't hear the voicemail initially, and when you hear it, holy shit. So Lucy sends the voicemail to Steven's sister, and we hear it in real time with Steven's sister, and it is absolutely diabolical. If you've seen the episode, you know how bad it is. But what I really like here is watching Steven go into full fight or flight mode and watching him gaslight and panic and manipulate in real time. This is a captivating scene, watching Steven's reaction to his sister finding out who he really is. This is like peak Tell Me Lies. This was just like an excellent scene. Really well done. Incredible performance from the guy that plays Steven, I must say. Like the look of panic and kind of controlled chaos in his face as he's realizing that the person he really cares about is realizing who he really is. It's so fascinating. It's really interesting to see how he operates with women that he isn't trying to get sexual gratification from, and how he kind of navigates that, because it's a completely different way to someone like Lucy or Diana or even Lydia. Speaking of Lydia, the scene between Steven and Lydia is also just absolutely insane. Love it. This is such a good demonstration of how these toxic sort of people try and isolate their victims from everyone else around them. And Steven quoting everything Lucy said about Lydia to Lydia is really, really hard to watch, and a really effective scene. But I also like this because at the end of the day, Lydia has a point where she says, well, Lucy, these things were incredibly specific. You clearly did say these things. And I like that you can tell that Lydia is still upset with Lucy. Obviously, Steven is doing the wrong thing here and is being incredibly manipulative, but Lucy did actually say those awful things. And it's one thing I've noticed reading the book for Tell Me Lies, is the book is very much interested in interrogating Lucy as a character as much as it is interested in interrogating Steven as a character. Particularly in the book, Lucy has some incredibly toxic thoughts about everyone she keeps around her, about friends she's meant to love. And I think in this season, particularly in this episode, it's really exploring that idea. You know, the fact that she keeps Lydia around as her best friend but says all these things about her is incredibly telling about Lucy, but again, very telling about Steven, that he would use this as ammunition to separate them. If I were to speculate about where I think this rift between Lydia and Steven and Lucy is coming from, I have to suspect that eventually Lucy is going to go into bat for Pippa against Lydia's brother to help him get locked up, sent to jail, or punished or expelled from the university, and Steven is going to be in Lydia's ear, telling Lydia how it was all Lucy's fault and Lucy was the mastermind of getting Lydia's brother kicked out of the uni or sent to jail or worse. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. That's everything I have to say about Tell Me Lies Season 2, Episode 5. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more Tell Me Lies content. I will be releasing a video in the next couple days covering the first 4 episodes, and then I will be doing weekly videos on the new episodes as they come out. Thank you so much for watching.